Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. We just got done with the 425 games. Welcome in to my instant NFL Week 1 reaction. And it's funny because early in the 1 o'clock games, I was like, have I just been watching too much college football, or is this the first half really low scoring? A lot of these games got off to really slow starts, but I'm just going to do an instant reaction to every single game. Starting with the Browns and Panthers, the Browns coming back 26-24. My major takeaway from this one, whoever has the ball last in the NFL wins. Even Jacoby Brissett can drive you down at the end of the game and win one for you. Cade York, the Browns investing a 4th-round pick into him. It pays off. He makes the long 50-something yard field goal. And the Panthers, Baker Mayfield, really, really bad early. Kind of a weird game. Christian McCaffrey, only 10 carries. But in the end, this Browns team is going to be really boring to watch without Deshaun Watson. They're going to be an extreme run-first team with Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and not very explosive. They've got Amari Cooper. Other than that, obviously, it's not great in terms of receivers. And then, of course, you've got Jacoby Brissett, who is the ultimate game manager, but the Browns get a big Week 1 win. They needed this, especially if they're going to survive until Deshaun Watson comes back. As for Carolina, actually, how does Robbie Anderson get behind the Browns defense? You're up by 2 scores. The only thing you have to do is make them go on a long drive, make them consume clock. Robbie Anderson gets free for like an 80-yard touchdown. But other than that, Baker Mayfield, the Panthers offense, not good. They've got to get DJ Moore involved more. The Browns end up winning. Next, we've got the Saints coming back. It was going to be the shock of the 1 o'clock window. Possibly the Falcons. We know they're tanking. They've got Mariota starting, possibly winning that game. They were up, for most of it. The Saints come back. Michael Thomas makes his return finally. Only 5 catches, but 2 of them for touchdowns. Chris Olave, the 2-point conversion. Jarvis Landry turning back the clock, 100-plus yards. Who started him in fantasy? My goodness. And then for the Falcons, how about Cordero Patterson is a full-blown running back at this point. 22 carries or something like that. Oh my goodness. That's shocking. There's no way he can sustain that workload. 22 carries a game. That's what he got. I'd imagine that's due to game script. I expect the Falcons to be playing a much different game script, mainly for their next games. It was surprising that they were ahead in this one, but Jameis Winston makes throws at the end. They come back, and they avoid a pretty major upset. I think the Saints were 6-point favorites in the NFL. That's pretty big for a road team to be 6-point favorites. How about the Bears beating the 49ers 19-10? When I saw the pregame and I saw it downpouring in Soldier Field, I was thinking to myself, you could put the over-under at 30, and I would take the under. Both of these teams, Week 1, young quarterbacks, inexperienced, rain, good enough defenses. It's just, you could have put these teams on, gave them 5 or 6 quarters, and they wouldn't have scored 40 points combined. But good for Justin Fields. I still have such great concerns about Justin Fields and the Bears offense not getting him weapons. But they were able to get a good win after having a really bad first half. Fields throws 2 touchdowns in the second half. Not many yards. It's to be expected with the weather. That field basically got flooded. If you look at the end of the game when they were all sliding, that was a pretty nice moment, but it was like a flood towards the end of that game. The 49ers, it's a rough start. I'm not going to overreact. I'm really high on the 49ers. It's an aberration. You really couldn't throw the ball. It was raining all game. It is what it is. I'm very concerned, though. George Kittle. We expect George Kittle finally to be healthy, and he's out game 1. Maybe they wanted to be cautious, whatever. Not a good look there. How about this one? The craziest game of the 1 o'clock window, the Steelers winning 23-20. And I got to be honest, both of these teams, there are some massive, massive negatives. Number 1 for the Bengals, Joe Burrow coming out. The turnovers, he could have very easily thrown 4 picks, 2 pick sixes. I know one of them got called back. Just a horrible, horrible start. How about Zach Taylor? Probably the worst coaching day out of any head coach. Jamar Chase has a clear touchdown. They don't challenge it because They've got first and goal at the 1, I would assume, and they're like, let's just make sure we save our timeouts in the event we don't win the challenge. They were going to win the challenge, and they're like, oh, because we have first and goal at the 1. That's not a given in the NFL. You have to challenge that. That was a touchdown by Jamar Chase along the side. That's inexplicable. And then how about not settling for the tie? You've got your punter out there with 40 seconds left. The Steelers have no timeouts. They can't stop the clock. You need to let that clock run. They punt it with like 20 seconds left on the play clock. And they give the Steelers the ball, and they effectively give them 20 more seconds to drive down the field and win the game on a 50-yard field goal or whatever it was. And for the Steelers, oh my goodness, the Steelers, they've got a turnover margin of +5. They're going to over. How is that possible? You've got to start Kenny Pickett. I don't understand Mitch Trubisky. I guess you could say he didn't have any turnovers, but that's just ridiculous. You have a turnover margin like that, and you're barely winning because Cincinnati's kicker can't make a 30-yard field goal. And also you've got the TJ Watt injury. So major negatives for both of these teams. Not high on the Steelers' future with the TJ Watt situation. They need to start Kenny Pickett. And the Bengals, my goodness, Joe Burrow, I think it was an aberration. We saw Jamar Chase, the 10 catches, around 130 yards and a touchdown. Really good fantasy day overall. T. Higgins was quiet, but overall that was a really, really crazy game. Eagles beat the Lions 38-35. Probably not as close as the score. The Eagles were up pretty easy, up by double digits most of the second half. Jalen Hurts was good enough. Kind of a weird day. He could have had a major fantasy day, but I believe Miles Sanders had a rushing touchdown. Boston Scott had a rushing touchdown. How about A.J. Brown? Not many people are going to talk about him because he didn't have a touchdown. 10 catches, 150 or something, just crazy from A.J. Brown. And then the Lions, Jared Goff, really weird day. The dude had like 60 passing yards late in the third quarter, and that was with a negative game script. They were down the whole game. DeAndre Swift basically kicked off the season with a 50-yard run, and then unfortunately had a touchdown sniped by Jamal Williams. That's always annoying. But the Lions, it's a good fight. 35 points. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8 catches, 64 yards, a touchdown. You'll take it. And you know what? Good win for the Eagles. Their offense looks good. Devontae Smith shut down by Jeff Okudah. Guys, if you're a fantasy owner of a receiver and you're facing the Lions, watch out. Jeff Okudah is a lockdown cornerback. Dolphins over the Patriots. This is probably the most boring game of the 1 o'clock window, 20-7. I have major concerns for New England, just the overall roster, the lack of playmakers for Mac Jones, and Mac Jones apparently hurt his back. They have nothing in terms of running backs, at least nothing yet. They've got guys with potential. Receivers are subpar. You've got some tight ends, Hunter Henry, whatever, but I'm very concerned with that offense, especially with a young quarterback not giving him proper weapons. And then, the defense was all right. The Dolphins scored 20 points. Tua didn't look great, but he wasn't horrible. Waddle with the touchdown. Tyreek Hill had a bunch of yards and receptions in the first half. He was kind of quiet in the second half, but you have to be 100% happy if you are the Dolphins. I was surprised the Patriots came out and looked that bad, but it makes sense. They've got no weapons at this point. So the Patriots start off 0-1. Mac Jones with an injury, apparently. This game might actually be in contention with the Patriots game for most boring game. Ravens 24, Jets 9. I got to look up Joe Flacco's final stats. What did Joe Flacco do? 59 pass attempts, and they scored 9 points. At what point who else do they have? Mike White? Oh, I feel so bad for the Jets. And then, reportedly, they weren't playing Garrett Wilson. He was only on the field for, a certain amount of snaps. Also, the other thing, Breece Hall, I figured would at least get most of the early down work. Michael Carter would be kind of like a third down scat back. Michael Carter comes out. He's got 7 carries in the first half. I don't know what's going on there, but that is just you have 59 pass attempts and you generate 9 points. I feel bad for Jets fans. They'll get Zach Wilson back. We'll see. But they've got to play Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is a superstar receiver. He needs to play. Lamar Jackson, good enough. 3 passing touchdowns. The rushing without J.K. Dobbins was not good. Lamar didn't do anything on the ground. Kenyon Drake's not going to do anything. Rashard Bateman, a touchdown. How about Devin Duvernay with 2 touchdowns? Good for him. The Commanders end up beating the Jaguars. They were kind of on upset alert there for a little bit. Carson Wentz with actually a really good debut. As I say that, apparently he did throw 2 interceptions, but 313 yards, 4 touchdowns. Antonio Gibson had a lot of receiving yards, surprisingly, including like 2 really big chunk plays. Christian Kirk, a good day. Trevor Lawrence missed Travis Etienne wide open for a touchdown. Travis Etienne is going to be good. If you can trade for Travis Etienne in fantasy, he is going to be really, really good because he also dropped a touchdown. He should have had 2 touchdowns. He had 0. So he's going to be really good, trust me. And the Jaguars, this game's not surprising. Commanders end up winning this 28-22. No Chase Young. We've got the tie. The Colts and the Texans. This was another one. It looked like a shocker. It looked like the Texans were going to upset them with Davis Mills. I was really high on Indianapolis, so I was surprised. The Colts come storming back. They outscore the Texans 17-0 in the fourth quarter. Jonathan Taylor, 31 carries. That's a unsustainably high workload, but okay. And Michael Pittman, really, really good start to his season. And then for the Texans, kind of a letdown for Dameon Pierce, the number 1 running back. Rex Burkhead ends up getting 14 carries there. But overall, really weird game with Indianapolis outgaining Houston by like 250 yards or something, and it ends up in a tie. Not much you can take away from that other than I am surprised. The Colts were down, 20-3 going into the fourth quarter. They turned it on and woke up. I thought they were going to win it in overtime, but it does end in a tie. So both of those teams are 0-1. Going to the 4 o'clock window, the one game I expected to be boring, and it was boring for most of it, but it got crazy late. The Giants end up winning, and what a call there. The 2-point conversion. You're a team like the Giants. Daniel Jones is your quarterback. You've got to do things like that. And Daniel Jones's numbers actually weren't horrible because he just took sacks. He didn't throw the ball away. He just took sacks. So he finishes 17-21. Saquon Barkley. The return of Saquon Barkley. Oh my goodness. 18 carries, 164. Wow. Amazing. As for the Titans, I don't think the Titans are going to be that good this year, and that is a horrible start. You got to win. If you're facing the Giants at home week 1, you got to win that game. They were in control for most of it. They end up losing at the end, the 2-point play. You love seeing stuff like that. You got to risk it, especially if you're the team like the Giants. Risk it with some fluky 2-point conversion. You steal a win. Such a smart play there. Vikings beat the Packers 23-7. They could have scored more. They didn't need to. It was total ball control in the second half. I have no clue what Aaron Rodgers was thinking returning to Green Bay. I told him, go to Indianapolis. You're 38 or 37, however old. Go to Indianapolis. Go to Cleveland. Go to a place that can give you weapons. I have no clue. They have no receiver weapons. Everybody knew this, and that's exactly what happens. First drive, Christian Watson, he's really fast. We all knew that. The reason he wasn't picked in the first round was because he had stone hands. He had like 17 drops in college, and that's exactly what happens. He drops a touchdown. Everyone saw this coming. No clue what Aaron Rodgers was doing. You've got to leave. The writing is on the wall. You have no weapons. You're old. You need help. So it is unbelievable. As for Minnesota, I was surprised. That's a career high in terms of yardage for Justin Jefferson. I would have figured he would have had a 200-yard game. But either way, Justin Jefferson, just a ridiculous start to his NFL career. First 2 seasons in the NFL, most yards in history. And then his first game, year 3, 184 yards. Dalvin Cook, decent, 90 yards, whatever. Kirk Cousins, good enough. They could have had more. They took, that's a game where it's kind of frustrating for fantasy because they really took their foot off the gas, and you're playing ball control. You're not trying to score late in the third quarter when you're up by 2 scores, against Aaron Rodgers. You're trying to keep the ball. You're trying to eat the clock. Next, Chiefs over the Cardinals, 44-21. Patrick Mahomes in the month of September is just ridiculous. 44 points, Mahomes, 365 touchdowns, no interceptions. Travis Kelce, really good. I thought Juju Smith-Schuster looked really good on Kansas City. I don't think his stats were anything special. He had 6 for 79, not horrible. No touchdowns for him, but still not bad. Clyde Edwards-Helaire with 2 receiving touchdowns. Sell high. Yeah, try and trade him in fantasy. And then for the Cardinals, really bad on the offensive side of the ball. Kyler Murray ended up getting some garbage points a little bit, but other than that, it seems like they're missing DeAndre Hopkins. Like, they're just missing that dynamic. Hollywood Brown is a good deep threat, but you need a true number one receiver, and they don't have that right now. And guys, if you have James Conner, you need to trade him immediately. Try and get any value for James Conner, because he is going to plunge when he doesn't get his goal line touchdowns. And then finally, we've got the Raiders-Chargers game, the AFC West matchup. Derek Carr, horrible start to his year. Unbelievable for Davante Adams, but I love the Chargers this year. I think the Chargers can win the West. I know the Chiefs are great. We will see if the Chargers can stay healthy, specifically on defense with Bosa, Khalil Mack, and Derwin James. Surprising, Keenan Allen only 4 catches for 66 yards. I say that because I saw him on like back-to-back plays have like 40 yards, and that's like more than half of his yards overall. But yeah, so Austin Eckler, a little surprising as well. Not great numbers there. Again, Davante Adams, 10 for 141, and the Chargers end up winning. A surprisingly low-scoring game. Carr, the 3 interceptions, the main story in this one. And both of these teams are going to play so many close games. I think the point spread was the Chargers -3, because these teams are just so evenly matched, and they're going to play such close games. But that's going to do it for week 1. Of course, we got the Buccaneers and Cowboys game coming up. That should be a good one. I think Chris Godwin is playing, so that will be a good game. But guys, overall, the main takeaways, the Bengals, Steelers, I think both of those teams come out on the losing end. TJ Watt with the injury. You're the Steelers. You're turning, you've got a +5 turnover margin, and you somehow go into overtime. And the Bengals, Joe Burrow with the turnovers. Zach Taylor, worst coach of the day. Just horrible stuff there. So that is going to do it for week 1, my instant reaction. Guys, make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.